Hey people, welcome to the 9th video in my series on the most important and effective drum exercises. If you are new to this, or if you missed a few episodes, don't worry, they don't necessarily build on each other. You can also jump back and forth. Each video is independent, and the tip that I explain to you there will also help you by itself to progress on the drums. Today I want to show you the best exercise to develop good timing, the ability to keep the tempo stable even for a long time. You probably already knew that we need a metronome for this. The metronome is always our greatest help when it comes to timing and accuracy. But what many do is just turn on the metronome and play along. It's like getting help all the time, like riding a bike with training wheels all the time. Yes, you don't fall over. Yes, you can do it, but you probably won't be able if the training wheels come off, if the assistance is missing. Acrobats will know that. Good assistance does not mean that someone is helping you to do the movement, but to help you or even catch you when it doesn't work. So it's the safety net. Sure, in the studio you usually play to a metronome, and there are also some bands on stage that play to a click, for example, because they use backing tracks. But we drummers definitely need the ability to keep the tempo stable over a long period of time on our own. The metronome should only be there to get used to the tempo and how it feels to stay at the tempo for a long time, not to free you of the responsibility to keep time yourself. The ability to be independently in charge of the tempo can only be trained by practicing exactly that, namely doing it independently without a metronome. But then, how do we know if we are going too fast or too slow? This is where the so-called gap click helps us. As the name implies, we have a click with gaps in it. So the metronome gives us several beats of tempo and then is silent for several beats. But it's not stopping, it's just quiet, and in this gap we are being challenged to keep the tempo. Then, when the metronome starts again, we know whether we've gone too fast or too slow. If the metronome comes earlier than expected, we've slowed down. If the metronome comes later than expected, we've become too fast in the meantime. I would recommend doing this at a not too slow tempo, maybe somewhere between 55 and 80 beats per minute. First of all, set your app or metronome so that it runs for a bar of 4/4 time and is silent for the next, or maybe only 2 quarter notes in the second bar at first. So you have the 1 and the 2, and then the 3 and the 4 are silent. What happens then is that we ride a very short stretch without our training wheels, but are immediately caught and corrected when we falter. This method is incredibly efficient because we have a constant comparison. Every few seconds we have to keep the tempo on our own, are corrected, and can train our timing in a highly efficient way. If that works with 2 quarter notes and 4 quarter notes, you can of course widen the gap. Doing this for 2 bars is very difficult, but even more effective. And if you do this for just 5 minutes, for a few weeks, maybe as a warm-up with a very simple reading exercise or with something you are working on anyway, then you've already made a great investment in your ability to keep time. You internalize the feeling that you are in the driver's seat. You keep the time. The metronome just tells you where it is. There is another variant of the gap click, and that is that you only have 1 beat per bar. So you don't have continuous metronome beats that just make a break somewhere, but you have the metronome in very large intervals. For example, just on the 1 each bar. Here you have to be even more independent because you never have several metronome hits in a row that put you back on track. You only have that 1 beat in time to know if you're too early or too late, but you don't hear how much you have sped up or slowed down. You then have to judge for yourself. So this exercise is a little bit more difficult, but forces you to be even more aware of your timing. I would recommend you to start with a metronome on the 1 first. But you shouldn't leave it at that, because otherwise you start to always see the 1 as the most important beat in the bar, which it isn't always. It sounds a bit stiff if you always orientate yourself on the 1, because you will tend to accent it. That will sound a bit heavy, a bit unlively and also ungraceful. Try it on the 2, the 3 or 4, or maybe even on the offbeat. On the and, try a metronome hit only on the 2 and. This will give your playing a nice edge, because your only point of orientation is syncopated. We also looked at this in an earlier video, that we have to be able to control the offbeat, really hear and feel it. That also trains our accuracy, and so we can do some stacking here too, which means to combine several exercises. If you place the metronome on the 4th 16th note of the 2, the 2 E and and try holding it there while playing, then you train the 2 skills of timing at the same time, namely maintaining a constant tempo over a longer period of time, and the accuracy, precisely controlling the placement of the subdivisions. Admittedly, this is very, very difficult. But of course it is also high intensity training. It is once again a target actual value comparison. We constantly have this comparison at very short intervals, play independently and get a comparison every few seconds from the metronome as to where we should be. And with this rapid feedback, you can learn very efficiently. You should always keep that in mind when designing your own exercises, by the way. You always need a clear target and always have a way to determine the actual value in order to then fill in the gap. I wish you a lot of fun with this exercise. Let me know how it works for you in the comments, and I hope to see you in the next video. Until then, take care and bye-bye.